How do I start investing for financial independence? The 3-bucket strategy for financial independence and retire early, or the FIRE movement, is not just for long-term retirement, but it's for my early retirement and any assets I need for the short term. This is not a typical retirement bucket strategy, but it's more of a strategy that I modify to achieve financial independence and retire early. So the first thing you need to do is to create your own timeline. This is the very first step you need to do before you start picking and choosing your investment options. I could just tell you what types of investments to buy, but you need to have the foundation before you start building a house, right? And this is my timeline, and I'm 36 years old right now. The first bracket of my timeline is my long-term investments from now until the end of my time. And I want to make sure I have the assets and income for the rest of my life and not have to rely on Social Security, because we all know that it can go away at any time. And if you're paying attention to what's going on with the debt ceiling in Congress right now, the government could delay the Social Security payments to make sure that they have enough cash on hand to repay the debt. And I'm going to make that video next week, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. The second bracket of my timeline is my medium or intermediate investments from now until I reach my early retirement age. I started my FIRE journey in 2016. And I'm on track to retire early by age 45. And when I say retire early, I mean I'm going to retire early from my 9-to-5 workforce, okay? But I'm still going to continue to make educational content on YouTube or traveling the world. So you'll have to figure out when you're looking to retire early. You don't have to retire early in your 40s. You could be in your early 50s and you want to retire early by age 55. You could be 30 years old right now and you want to retire early by 50 years old. The early retirement age is typically before the age of 59 and a half, because that's when you're eligible to withdraw from your retirement accounts like 401k and IRA. The third bracket of my timeline is my short-term assets and cash reserve. My short-term assets are managed every single year from now until the end of my time, because I'm not ready to retire yet. I have my high-yield savings accounts for large annual expenses, entertainment, travel, and other discretionary items. And I'm making sure that I have the cash flow from my regular income to pay for the expenses that I need. And I'm always gonna have about 10 to 15% of my net worth in cash reserve. And they will be further divided into different categories, and I will talk about that later on in this video. And now let's get into the types of investments I have in my short, intermediate, and long-term timelines. The first one I will always prioritize is my long-term investments. I'm not touching most of these long-term investment accounts for another 25 years. I'm maximizing my contributions to my TSP, Roth IRA, and HSA every year until I retire early. Every dollar I invest in these accounts will grow exponentially. And take a look at this investment spreadsheet. Okay, I'm gonna switch it here. And the contribution limit for 401k, 403b, 457, or TSP back in 2016 was $18,000. And it just increases by almost $500 every year. And I had some very fortunate years during the between 2016 and 2021 when we had a long bull market. But I'm just going to average it by 8% annual return. And I'm looking to retire early by 45. So I'm going to have to stop contributing to it when I quit my job. But just by leaving it alone with an 8% average return, I'm going to have roughly $2.2 million by the time I turn 60 years old. And if I don't touch any of it, I'll have over $4.7 million by age 70. The sooner you start investing in your long-term investment, the bigger your investments will grow. Now, let me add my Roth IRA here. The contribution limit increases by about $500 every 2 to 3 years. But look at how my total investments will be around $900,000 by age 45 and $3.1 million by age 60. My plan is to contribute to my Roth IRA even during my early retirement, because I'm most likely going to have earned income from YouTube or my financial coaching business. And when I add let me go to the other tab. When I add my HSA, which I didn't get to start investing until last year when I switched jobs to get the high deductible health plan, I would have over $1 million by age 45 and $3.8 million by age 60. And by age 70, assuming I don't touch any of this money, I would have $8.2 million. And all of these numbers are not even counting my wife's employer-sponsored retirement account and her Roth IRA. Let me go to the different tab here. And we're the same age at 36. So when I add her portion of the Roth IRA and 401k starting in 2022 when we got married, we're going to be pretty close to $1.5 million by age 45 and $5.5 million by age 60. and $11.8 million by age 70. This is why I'm prioritizing the heck out of my long-term investments, because I have the time to take losses and make massive gains. And if I decide not to retire early by age 45 for whatever reason, I can still count on my retirement portfolio to last throughout my lifetime, right? And here's some other investments I want to explore over the next 25 years. Real estate is going to be a big part of our investment portfolio. And one of the fastest ways to grow my wealth is to build my real estate portfolio. As our wealth grows, we're going to have the opportunity to get into real estate investing, angel investing, IPO investing, and venture capital investing. And it's almost endless when you start accumulating assets, right? And I would love to own like a piece of land one day. I would love to own another company that manages hundreds of storage units or an apartment complex. Am I going to stop investing at age 60? Absolutely not. I'm going to continue to build my wealth by buying assets like real estate and stock market investments. And you can also get my financial independence resources, including all of the spreadsheets that I just showed you, for absolutely free by visiting firesightchat.com/contact. You can also check out my Fireside Chat shop to check out the books and equipment I use at firesightchat.com/shopping. For the intermediate bucket, I currently have 2 taxable brokerage accounts that invest in index funds, ETFs, and individual stocks. And one of them is in dividend investments, and the other one is in growth investments. The intermediate bucket is for my early retirement, as I mentioned earlier. The first and foremost is figuring out how much I need from my age 45, from age 45 until age 60. And I've decided that my expenses will be at least $110,000 a year because I'm looking to travel and live in several places overseas and stateside. And having $3.7 million will be plenty to retire early. That's my fat fire number, right? But not everyone needs that much. I probably don't even need that much, to be honest, to retire early. If your estimated annual expenses is $70,000 a year, then your fire number is $1.96 million, because 70,000 multiplied by 28 years is 1.96 million. The reason why I multiplied it by 28 years instead of 25 years is that I'm adding those 3 years to an emergency fund. And you can check out this video about my bear market fund linked in the description below. And if we go through another bear market year, I want to make sure I have the cash reserve to cover my expenses instead of withdrawing from my stock market investments. It wouldn't be wise to withdraw my investments when the market is down 10, 15, or 20% for the year, right? I'm not just going to rely on my stock market investments inside my 2 taxable brokerage accounts. And let me give you the breakdown of my intermediate investment income. I'm going to have the dividend income, div, from my dividend stock portfolio. Then I'm also going to have my business income from Fireside Chat. And I'm going to have capital gains from my growth portfolio. And I'm also going to be able to use the HSA with the receipts that I have tax-free and penalty-free. And you can check out my HSA video linked in the description below. I'm going to have real estate income, and I don't know how many properties I'll have by the time I reach my early retirement age. The other one I'll have is the securities-based lines of credit, or what's called a SB lock or S block, to maintain a line of credit for my taxable brokerage account. I'm probably not going to open my SB lock until my portfolio reaches about $2 million. And another source of income is cash in my cash reserve in case of a bear market. And before I get into the short-term investments, if you need help with your personal finances, like creating a budget or savings plan to achieve your financial independence, you can schedule a free one-on-one 20-minute financial coaching session by visiting firesightchat.com/coaching. And speaking of cash, let's talk about short-term investments. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, I'm going to keep my about 10 to 15% of my net worth in my cash reserve. In the short term, my cash reserve is divided into the following categories during the short-term bucket of my timeline. Number 1 is my emergency fund. And because I'm not ready to retire yet, if I lose my job, I'm going to need my emergency fund to pay for the expenses that we need. And number 2 is my annual expenses fund. I have annual subscription fees that cost more than $100 or $200 at a time. And I have vehicle registration fees that are about $1,200 a year between the 2 vehicles we own. I have car insurance payments that are about $2,000 every 6 months between the 2 vehicles. And number 3 is my travel and entertainment fund. And this is also called a sinking fund. When you want to travel about 3 to 4 times a year, okay? And so we're putting cash into travel funds so that we can make bigger purchases like airlines, hotels, and transportation. And when I go to my early retirement or the intermediate bracket of my timeline, the cash reserve for my emergency fund will increase to 3 years of expenses. So right now, I have 6 months of expenses in my emergency fund. But when I get to my early retirement age, I want to have 3 years of expenses saved. And I'm not going to worry about losing cash to inflation because this is the cash I need in case of a bear market. The longest bear market I saw in my lifetime was about 18 to 20 months. Okay. And if we see another bear market like we did in 2022 or maybe 2008, 2009, I'm not gonna withdraw from my investments. I'm gonna withdraw from my cash reserve. And if I have any excess cash saved, I'm gonna use it to buy more stocks or stock market investments because stocks are trading at a discount. Maybe look at it from another perspective. And when I turn 60 years old, we should have, let's say, $5.5 million in our retirement accounts. If my net worth is $10 million, a 10% cash reserve would be around $1 million, right? Why would I keep that much cash in hand? It's to buy assets that are priced at a low value. If I find a real estate property selling at a discount, I want to have the cash ready to deploy. If I find a stock that's selling at a cheap value, I want to have the cash to buy it. What if I want to open a restaurant franchise? What if I want to buy an apartment complex? Cash is trash if I just let it sit there in my savings account and do nothing about it. Cash is king if I'm constantly looking for opportunities to buy assets that can grow much more in the future. This is also called the buy, borrow, die strategy that millionaires and billionaires use, and I will make a video on that in the future. So hopefully you have some understanding of the 3-bucket strategy for financial independence and retire early. I encourage you to start reading books about personal finances like The Millionaire Next Door that's behind me on the bookshelf. That book has changed my life, and I want you to start connecting with people who are also in the FIRE community. Don't listen to the ones that tell you that you can get rich quickly if you're investing whatever scam coin they're selling you. You need to first understand the basic fundamentals of investing. You can't build your house without foundation, right? You have to understand your timeline. My timeline is not the same as yours. I'm 36. You're not 36. You're probably 40. You could be 25. You could be 50. My medical or health condition is not the same as yours. You might be paying more on your healthcare expenses. My financial situation is not the same as yours. I had $110,000 in consumer debt back in 2014, and I promised myself never to get into that kind of situation ever again. Some of you may be dealing with debt right now that you're desperately trying to get out of. The only way to increase your savings rate is to get rid of your debt. Instead of paying $600 a month on your car payment, imagine how much $600 a month will grow with an index fund or ETF. And imagine maximizing your retirement savings every year. And I showed you how compound interest works earlier in this video. Now the question is, how are you going to get started? And if you want to know more about how I save 70% of my income for early retirement, be sure to check out these 2 videos. So with that said, I appreciate you watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good one.